Hello, people, and thank you for joining me and my friends on the Gamefiles podcast. My name is Mathew, and I will be hosting discussions on all things dice throwing, button mashing, page turning, and screen viewing, from the past, present, and future of those things that occupy our spare time. Hello, people. Welcome back to the show. We have some special guests today on our post-Gameageddon extravaganza. Well, I can't talk. That's okay. So we have the always present Raidus.
Hello, people.
We have another returning guest, that being Jason, since this was kind of his brainchild and his birthday party. So, hello, Jason.
Internet.
And then for the first time joining us, we have our good friend Ryan, who is a game aficionado and creator. So that is pretty awesome. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
All
hey,
right.
everyone.
So a few episodes ago, we talked about, kind of our favorite board games and, how we got into it and all that. And we, kind of alluded to the fact that Jason was going to have a birthday. And it was a board game extravaganza. Played quite a few games. Some of them I had never played before, which was a lot of fun. So I figured we just kind of jump right into it and, kind of talk about the progression of the games we played. So who wants to jump in and talk about what we did first? Besides
First off, I mean, it was a great time. I was glad all of you guys were able to make it. Plus, we had Dave and Quinn there as well. Played a lot of games. I would have liked to have played more, but time's a bitch, isn't it?
It really is.
Always.
And really quick, before we move on, I kind of want to say, Jeff, what's up, man? You never show up. All right, let's keep going now.
But yeah, like the whole idea was wanted to kind of get together with some friends, celebrate games, have a good time, eat some good food, have a couple good drinks, and I think that was accomplished.
Oh, definitely. So
Agreed.
Yeah. So we played a lot of games. I'd say, we'll save the two big highlights, but I know that. I played now I'm forgetting what it's called. Shards of Infinity, I believe it was. I played a round of that with Quinn, if I'm not mistaken, and he beat me because I sucked at it. Which, hey, that's just how the cards drew. But while I was playing that, you guys were playing something else. What was that you guys were playing?
So, Raidus and I were playing Ryan's game, Dracar Tactics.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm going to let Ryan kind of lead off and talk about it a little bit, and then Raidus and I can kind of jump in and give some of our highlights.
Yeah, it's his brainchild. So, I mean, let's jump into it. I mean, this is what we do here.
Yep. Yeah. First off, it's been shortened. Now it's just Dracar. We started off with Dracar Tactics because me and Brian both love Final Fantasy Tactics, and we were like, that's a cool name. But Dracar just sounds better for a board game, we decided, and it's a little easier. But yeah, so it's a Viking strategy game. It has a lot of elements of other games, primarily being like chess, because of the grid movement, and you have the classic wooden pieces. I carved all the pieces out of wood because I wanted that classic just feel to it. And then it also has, people have said Battleship, because it's a hidden placement game, meaning you don't get to see where your opponent's pieces are going to be at the start of the game. But then it also has cards, so hand management where you can play cards and kind of throw things off a lot. But it's one of those games. I really love games like that with the strategy where you have to constantly be thinking and changing up your strategy. And it's plus for our first game, we wanted it to be a high replayability so that you could literally just keep playing this game and it's always going to be different. And on top of that, different types of setup, again, where it's not like chess that you always set your pieces in the same position. They can literally be put in a different position every single game. So that alone changes it up. But then it's also, with the grid movement, the pieces do have they have an amount of movements, but they don't have technically like spaces. It's not like the knight in chess where he can only do the, two one way and then up or down, or whatever you want to call his little movement. But it's not something like that, but they have different movements and attacks. And you have chieftains, which the whole point of the game is to beat the other player's chieftain. That was another thing that we don't like about chess is, in chess, the king, it's like, yeah, protect the king. The king doesn't really do a whole lot. They're not that strong of a piece. And they just kind of sit and hide until the end of the game, and they actually have to fight. Whereas ours, with it being a Viking game, and, Vikings were just these fierce warriors, so we wanted, Brian said it best when he kind of came up with the description of the chieftain. He said that he wanted it to feel like a boss, not a king. He wanted it to be a boss at the end of the level in like a video game, where when you get to the chieftain, it's not like, oh, well, this is going to be easy. He's quite possibly the strongest piece in the game. So that's the whole point, is to take the chieftain out. And then you also have berserkers, shield maidens, and archers. They all have their own abilities and things that they can do. And then, like I said, there's also cards that can get played and, add in a few other features to the game. Oh, yeah. But I'll kind of stop there so you guys can, say whatever you want to say.
Well, if I remember correctly, Jason and Raidus played it first. Am I right with that?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so we kind of took the initial game that night, and hats off to Raidus. He dominated me. It took me a little bit of time to get the feel of the game and kind of how the pieces and your strategy kind of melded together. He also got a card that allowed him to move his boat to start with that threw off my entire strategy from the beginning, and I just never recovered. But with that being said, I had a lot of fun with it. Ryan, I agree that it definitely has some chess elements to it, but also very different. When I think of chess, I think of moving pawns on a board and then, like checkers, moving into them or over them. And this isn't that. Your pieces have attack values that when you reach those other pieces, there's an exchange in battle, and then those pieces can move away. You're not simply just capturing that piece and that piece is off the board. You also have characters that have ranged attacks, so you have to take that into account. So it's not just simply moving around a board and trying to capture pieces. There's a lot more what you call tactics to it.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. That's one of the things we love about it, is because we tried to mimic what a battle is like, and it's just, battle is chaos, and you don't know what the other person is going to do. So it's just constant, ever-changing, evolving. When that screen goes up, and even at that point, when you first see your opponent's placement, it's kind of like, oh shit, like I'm totally not set up for that tactic. I need to completely rethink my plan right from the get-go. So we love that aspect of the game, that it's just constantly making you think and plan.
And then
and I think what you guys really did is you grabbed that chaos, but the rules are laid out in such a way to where it's not overwhelming. A lot of games that want to get into chaos, it can get real overwhelming those first couple rounds. You'll lose a more casual player. Whereas I think you guys have developed that game very well to where people like us who are really into the strategy games and who are used to looking at a board and thinking 9 steps ahead go, okay, there's a lot to this game. But at the same time, someone sits down and goes, okay, I hate those kind of games. There's enough chaos and randomness to it where they don't feel that they're at an utter disadvantage right off the start. I know Jason said that I dominated him, but that was the first game, luck of draw cards. In a best out of 3, who knows? I may have just gotten wiped off the next 2 times. So I don't know.
That's like
I really enjoy the game. I think it's well developed. The concepts behind it, and just like the intricacy of the pieces and a lot of those. Trying not to spoil a whole lot, because I know you guys really haven't gone real public with it, but it's definitely something out there.
Oh no, you guys can say whatever you want at this point. We're in definitely pickup mode, and let's tell anybody and everybody we can.
Okay. Okay. Well, like I was saying that day, just the addition of you don't have to track HP because you have developed the arrow markers in each piece. Not only is that a very simple way of being able to go, okay, that piece has 1 more hit and they're dead, but fits the thematics of the game so well, and it's just an interesting little addition that you don't see in most games. Most games either put a little hit marker next to them, or you've got some kind of a little piece of paper to write, oh, that guy's taken 2, but just the addition of those arrows into the shield and into the back. Just it fits the theme of the game. And just, I don't want to say it takes you into the game even more because it's not that kind of a game, but just makes the game feel that you can definitely feel the love for that setting. Not just the rules of the game, but the setting itself to keep it not generic, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, the arrow markers is one of those things. Actually, in like our very initial playtest, I played with a few people from work, and it was just like a random kind of board game night at the house. And I asked if they wanted to play. Everybody's like, yeah, sure. And they're not avid gamers by any means, and it was just hilarious to hear people at one point, because I had two games going, and one was in like our kitchen and the other was in our living room, so I was a little bit spaced out, and I was trying to bounce between both and try and help people with like rules and explaining and that. And just randomly, I remember at one point it was just so funny because I hear one of the girls yell out like, "No, I shot him! I want to stab the piece." She just loved she just loved stabbing the arrows into the pieces and like, yeah, I got your guy. I get to stab him.
Yeah, and you know. I ended up playing it. I ended up playing it after those guys. I played it with my brother-in-law Quinn, who will never be on the show because he doesn't want to say anything he'll regret, which is fine. Good for you, buddy. But you know what? When we were playing that game, I mean, there's so many different pieces of strategy to it because you know you have your cards and you have what is it? You can play 2 cards at first. And then potentially a third card once you knock out enough of their players. Is that correct, or was it 4? I can't remember that part of it.
You can play 3 initially and 4 once you knock out enough.
Yeah. And so part of the strategy could be to wipe out some of their smaller pieces, right? Just so you could have that opportunity to use the extra card. But at the same time, if you start doing that, maybe that backfires because they get an edge on you a different way. So I mean, the cards definitely keep it random. And the way I feel about it is once I would play the game, probably 3 or 4 times, if I don't have certain cards in my hands and they haven't played them yet, I'm gonna be worried about those. So that's like another aspect of the strategy that goes with it. But at the same time, you're talking about extreme gamers or avid gamers versus the very casual players, right? They don't normally play games, maybe not even ever a strategy game. Maybe Monopoly is their wheelhouse, right? Well, I mean, for crying out loud, like I think brand new people to gaming could play this game and still have a shot of winning because once you figure out a couple of the mechanics, I mean, it's anybody's game, which I like. So I feel like it's going to be one of those games that we're going to keep going to chess probably, but like chess, you can play them a million times, but different opponents have different styles, and it's going to be one of those games that's going to take tons and tons of times to quote master it, and even then, somebody else who is a master would probably be able to take you at 1 out of 3 times, maybe because that's just the way it works, and I like that because you're right, war is chaos. That's what it is. So kudos to you, bud.
Yeah, that's thank you. I'm happy you guys really enjoyed it so much. And like you said, just going back to chess, that was actually a conversation that me and Brian had at one point. Was I was saying as we were developing it, that obviously not with the cards and all that, which we do have, we just call it classic mode, where it doesn't have any cards and it's literally just the pieces. And that's all it is. You're just playing with the strategy of the pieces. And that's an entire game in itself. And we had the conversation, just kind of that hopes and dreams type of thing. And it's like, man, what if this becomes the next, like, chess club? Like, what if there becomes Dracar clubs in high school? Like, how cool would that be?
That'd be awesome.
So, yeah. It was one of those where I was like, yeah, it's like this could be, there could be championship players at some point of this. Like, yeah, they, see how it goes. But so I'm definitely happy that a lot of the concepts we were going with that you guys definitely seem to enjoy and picked up. We're constantly updating it. It's basically done, but there's even a few things that we're still trying out and have changed up a little bit since you guys have played. More for like production stuff, and as far as how we're changing things around and trying to make it so it's not just some of the pieces a little smaller and easier to work with. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm gonna throw this in on a personal note. Something that I appreciated is after, I mean, and I'm sure you did this for the other game too. When we were done, what's the first thing you asked is there anything that we can do better on this? So, I mean, you were humble like that, and you're really trying to make it the best possible game. So, again, kudos to you on that one, because that's, being humble like that and actually being open to opinions is probably going to help you in the long run. So, when it comes time to make this go live or whatever you end up doing, I will definitely be advertising the bejesus out of it because, again, credit where credit's due. So, good job, buddy.
Well, thanks.
Definitely
I
a lot of
appreciate
fun.
Yeah. So now we played.
Now that I've played it, I was going to say, now that I've played it, if that was a game that you walk up on a table, Gen Con, then that I would probably walk away with a copy of. So pretty easily. Not even a second, that is definitely be one of those games I'd pick up, even if it, 50, 60, 70 bucks, whatever the cost on it would be. So.
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's bump that price tag up to, let's see if we can get 80. Yeah. Anybody going for 80?
80. Well, how much is Twilight Imperium? That's my goal.
Yeah.
I would,
or on Kickstarter, you can
let's strike Gloomhaven, Frosthaven.
Yeah, all in bundle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, so
150.
That, stop it.
This is why I don't kickstart games. Just
yeah, because we're all like collectors.
Hey,
so
I kickstarted one game and I spent $300 on it.
Yeah, well, because we're all collectors and we want
one
everything.
game, Frosthaven.
What was it?
Frosthaven.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
So.
Yeah.
Frosthaven.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yep. So we played, the majority of us played that game, and there were some, Dave was there, and again, Jeff, you didn't show up, because you've had COVID for like 10 years. So that's your problem. You need to go to a doctor. Jokes aside, so, we all played that game, and then we ended up sitting down to play a game with pretty much everybody. Actually, I think it was everybody there. And that was House on
Betrayal.
Betrayal at House on Hill.
That's what it is.
House on the Hill.
Yes, House on the Hill. Yep. And that was a blast. So
that was a fun game.
Yeah. Anybody want to jump in on that one?
That was probably honestly, out of all the games we played that night, that was probably my favorite one. We just had a great time with it. The story that we played just worked really well. None of us had really played it before, except I think you played it, Radis, and Ryan, had you played it before?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's one of me and my wife's favorite games.
So it was great because we had two people who had already played it before, so we're able to kind of get us up and running really fast. It's quick to pick up. It's easy to learn. It was a lot of fun. It was the perfect number because we had the exact right amount of people to max out the game. And just fun things happen in the game that like make it in the moment, and you're like, oh shit, that just happened. That's awesome. Like Dave got the spear. And
Dave
gets like the most powerful item in the game, and then he gets like a bunch of power-ups, and then he also ends up being the big bad in the game. I mean, it was like a perfect setting. We were perfectly spread out where we were basically effed. I got down in a basement that I couldn't get out of, so I was like the sacrificial lamb. Everything worked out great. And then you've got Quinn, who, when we break apart, we're like discussing our strategy. So Dave goes off to read his section, and then we're reading our part. And we're like, okay, we need to make sure we do X, Y, and Z and not let Dave know about this. And like 30 seconds into it, Quinn's like, oh, we got to stop Dave from doing that. And Dave's like, oh, okay. Well, I'm just going to go do that then. It's like, shut up, Quinn.
Yeah. I think we had two betrayers in that game.
Hey, it's okay, But
so Dave actually, like, he ended up winning. Like, once he found out what he had to do, we really didn't stand a chance, and he railroaded us. But he called me the next day, and he's like, do you mind if I borrow that game? I got home, and I told my kids about it, and, like, they want to bring some friends over and play. So I was like, oh, yeah, no problem. So I let him come by and grab it, and I talked to him like 2 or 3 days later. I was like, hey, if you guys got to play, he's like, Yeah, we played once, and it kind of really scared my wife and oldest daughter, but my son's really into it. So he's going to bring some friends over from his school, and we're going to play later. So then, like, a couple days go by, and I asked him, like, so have you guys got to get through some of the scenarios? And he's like, no, we played once, and I've won both games, and apparently I'm a bad winner, so nobody wants to play with me anymore.
I'm going to say that.
Because
it's Dave.
Yeah, that's one of the.
I'll give it to him because he's getting picked on at D&D. He got
as he should be
on a couple of the board games. So I'll give him that.
He spent half the
It'd be
campaign on his back,
winning everything,
getting beat up.
Betrayal is one of those games. Betrayal is one of those games. It's just awesome because of how creepy it is, and it's not like everything you do, there's like pretty much always some little creepy factor that happens with the cards and the events and everything. But yeah, Jason, as soon as you said that with his wife and kids, I'm like, ooh, that might not be a good play, because some of those are like just super graphic and creepy. We actually just for my wife's birthday, her mom was throwing her birthday party, and she always wants to play games now too, because I've luckily converted her over to a gamer now. And she knew that her family wouldn't play it because her grandma and her mom were going to be there. So we actually ended up buying the Scooby-Doo version of it, which is like the kids version. Yeah, it's Betrayal at Mystery Mansion, I think, but it's the Scooby-Doo version. So it's very watered down for creepy value. It really does feel like a Scooby-Doo episode.
Nice.
Personally, I will say it's a great kids version, but it's not nearly as good as the original because I guess just me being an adult, I like all the story and the creepy factor, whereas the Scooby-Doo, it's like, oh, well, here we go again. Let's go get the person and unmask them and all those things. But I just love how Betrayal plays out. We actually just did one of our playthrough videos. We just did, which we haven't, it's being edited right now, but it was just such an epic game. We got a werewolf scenario that I haven't had yet. And we were all running away. We were trying to do what we had to do. I think it was like we had to, first we had to find this special gun, and then we had to we had to make silver bullets. But first we had to roll an intelligence roll to know how to do that. And as we're doing this, the werewolf is running around and he's killing all of us. And in the last moments of the game, we're all dying one by one. There's two of us left. We're shooting at this werewolf as he's coming at us down the hall. And I had the gun. I shot. I hit him, but you had to... Or no, I'm sorry, I missed. You only had to hit him once because it was a silver bullet. And I missed. Everyone kept missing. And then finally I die. Ashley picks up the gun off my body and shoots him once and just bam. So it was just a very epic game because it was literally a werewolf is chasing all these people around a house, killing them as he catches them. And then in the last moments, right before he kills that last person, they put one right between his eyes and done. He's dead. Nice. And it's just... it was just an epic story. It was like something that this would play out. This is how a werewolf movie would go.
Oh, yeah. Now, here's the question. Did she get bit?
Very nice.
She did not. I don't know. See, I don't think we actually looked at what the killer or the betrayer's mission was. He did also have a dog. So he had his little dog companion that if he bit you could turn you into a werewolf. Or I think there was the possibility that you could be turned. But it didn't happen, so I don't know if Did you kill the dog? Because the dog could still come back. We did not kill the dog because the rules said we only had to kill the person, not the dog. I'm sorry, but your wife is done. The dog came to her. She was like, "Oh, cute doggy," ow, and it's over. If anybody that knows my wife, that's exactly what would happen.
Well, you're both
turned into
people,
a werewolf so fast. Yeah,
that's hilarious. So we had a good time with that one, and we give Dave, we do give Dave a lot of crap about everything, which he kind of brings it on himself. But I would say it was just so convenient. Everything just was so convenient, and yeah, it had to be him. There was no one else it could be.
It was also just classic with Dave. You know, he was a betrayer. He goes off, reads his book, comes back, and we're in like 2 or 3 rounds, and all of a sudden you can see it on his face. It dawns on him that he's gonna win, and you just see him smiling and getting more and more into the game. And then it's like another 2 rounds, and he realizes, oh, I could win this a whole lot faster by doing whatever the ritual was that he needed to do. And so he's like, oh, and you just see it on his face, the pure joy. And I don't know. I just wanted to throw that out because I thought that was also just a great gaming experience just to see.
Wasn't there a point where he just like stopped even trying to hide what his objective was because he knew he was going to win? I feel like we kept asking and he was like, no, I'm not saying. And then eventually he was just like, yeah, I have to go over here and do this
And
because
do this
he just
3
knew.
times, yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Because he read it and he realized that if he did something, he could add a point to his card, and he only had to do it like 5 times. And he's like, oh, I didn't realize that. It's like, well, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, there was no way we were going to win, especially after Jay got took out.
Well, we were so spread out. Like, I was in the basement. You had 2 people on the main floor, 2 people upstairs, and he literally just had to walk into a room, and it was game over.
Yeah, it was right there.
Like, he's like 1 move away, and he's like just sitting outside this room for like 3 rounds. And like, that's when Quinn's like, doesn't he just need to go in the room? Like, shut up.
Yeah. Yep. Well, and that's all, in Quinn's defense, it wasn't all he had to do, but that was what we wanted to stop him from doing. And I think he stayed outside the room just so that he could kill.
We just kept trying to
Jason
kill
and
people,
Quinn.
and he thought he had to kill people.
Yep.
Yeah,
So
that's okay, though. It is what it is.
Yeah, that was honestly, like, that game was my highlight of the night. Like, we played several games, and there was a bunch I wanted to play we never got to, but that one was, I had the most fun with that throughout the night. It was just a good time all around.
yeah, that's a great party game.
Oh, yeah.
You've got 5 people just because of the and it's not even, like I said, the game is simple, but again, it's the interaction around the table that makes it so fun.
Yeah.
Especially when somebody reads something that's a little squeamish and you can see on their face that they're a little sit off by it, you know. So.
Stop talking about me. You know I'm put off by that stuff a little bit. It's fine.
I wasn't talking about you.
I know you weren't, but I'm just going to say you were because why not?
It happens every game. Somebody always, every single game I've ever played, as long as there's new people, every single time. What kind of game is this? When something creepy or gross happens.
Wait a minute. This game just became satanic. There's no way around it. Oh, that's a pentagram. Oh, okay. Whatever. Kill everyone. No, actually, that was one of the only times, because I'm a super competitive person. Unless I'm going against Jeff, then I'm just competitive against him. But it's one of the only times that I've lost a game that I probably enjoyed losing more than I would have if I won, if that makes sense. Because it was just it's just so comical in the end. So that's all I got to say about that. So after that game, we played. I kind of sat out for a little while because the next game we played was that 5-player game, which was I'm forgetting that one too. Good grief, I wrote them all down too.
Was it
Dead of Winter? Yes.
Yes, it was Dead of Winter. Yeah.
And I believe that was a 5-player game. So I decided to sit out and I played the role of the narrator basically, which is fine. And does anybody want to take off on that one?
So that one was a big push for me. I've had that game for a long time. I've got to play it a handful of times, but every time I've played it, it's been with maybe 3 people max, and it's one of those games I always felt you need a big group for. So I was really looking forward to playing like a big full-person Dead of Winter game. It was okay, but I was honestly kind of disappointed. I felt like the game kind of just drug on, and I think it might have been the scenarios we got, but it seemed like we just kept having to do the same thing over and over. It was very repetitive.
Yeah. And I mean, it's one of those games that, I'm sure that the different scenarios, maybe some of them are more fun than others, but and I'm sorry to be bashing it, but it's almost like a one-trick pony. Like, you'll enjoy it the first few times you play it, but after a while, I don't see myself wanting to play that all the time.
I would agree. I don't know that it has a ton of replay value for me anymore. With the caveat being there is an expansion that I think expands up to 6 or 8 players. that turns it into...
There's actually 2 expansions.
But one of them turns it into a competitive where you play teams against each other. So you have 2 teams of survivors, and each team has separate objectives, and then you can actually battle with each other, I believe, too. So that could make the game a little more interesting, but overall, I don't know if it's going to have a ton of replay for me.
Yeah, I think that game for that falls into the Fallout, where it's conceptually it's really nice and everything works really well, so there's not really any broken systems in the game. But you play about 3 or 4 scenarios in it, and you've seen everything that game can do. So unless you can get like a group of new people every 4th game, but I think that puts a lot of stress on the one person who's playing it more and more. So I enjoyed it. I think we had a fun time. I also think our game may have suffered because I don't think there was anyone trying to sabotage anything. We were all, playing straight up. So
no, that's a good point. I didn't think about that, Ray. But we didn't have a betrayer in the group. Nobody pulled the betrayal card.
Agreed. That's what.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Okay. Well, yeah. So I was going to say 2 things. Which, and again, that's another one of Ashley and a game that we really like. Although it is true we haven't played that one in a while. Although I have gotten the expansion since then, and I need to throw those in and see how it changes it up. But I will say from that game, that game didn't feel all that great that night because of, one, there wasn't a betrayer, which always makes it more fun because then you kind of think or you don't know, but we pretty quickly figured out that nobody was trying to sabotage us. So I think that alone just it just took away some of the stress, and what usually ends up in games I've played is the more fun part when you're kind of like, yeah, what are you doing? What's he doing? Is it you? Is it you who's doing this? But I also know for a fact that scenario that we got is from what I've played, that is the scenario that is the most boring to me, because it's literally just, hey, just pack up a bunch of food so we can leave.
Yeah, that's all it was. Like every mission was, let's go find more food.
Yep. Yeah, it's that is a very boring mission as well. So yeah, I think those 2 things definitely contributed to that particular game. Just didn't feel all that great that night.
Yeah, and now the other thing too is I was playing the narrator, so I'm reading the cards as they're coming out, and there's options, and nobody ever took the options that would either A, screw everybody over, or B, even if it was something that helped the group, it just was awesome, and I wanted to read it. Like I'd be like, oh, I guess I could put this card down. That sucks.
So basically, what we did was we played out a zombie apocalypse as if we really wanted it to work out. Like, it wasn't a TV show zombie apocalypse. It wasn't a game or a board video game where bad shit's going to happen, people are going to get screwed. We played out the version that if you really want to survive the zombie apocalypse, do what we did.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Which makes for a very boring game.
There also weren't any of the choices that came out. We didn't get a single one, at least not that I remember. I don't think we got a single one where it was a team vote. Every single one was just an individual. That's another one that makes it a little bit more fun, because then you have kind of the back and forth of, do we kick them out or do we not? And we didn't have a single one of those, which I couldn't believe.
I think we may have had one.
It was probably like a super easy one that was like obvious that we were all going to do it. It wasn't like anything where we're like, well, no, I want to keep this person alive, but no, I don't. And,
and then we blew somebody up. That was fun.
Did we blow somebody up? I remember
Or was that the other option we didn't do? That might have been the option we didn't do.
It was, because I was the one that got that card, and I was honestly at that point, I was in the mindset of, well, screw it, I want something cool to happen. So it was like, do you want to shake the chemicals or do you want to set them down gently? I was like, no, let's shake them up. Let's see what happens. and it turned out like it made something good for us, and it's like, oh, all right, no. Yeah, I was hoping the whole place was going to blow, but sure.
So you were playing Paul for that particular round.
A little bit, yeah. You know what? Yes. For in that instance, I was just kind of like, let's see what happens. This is probably bad.
WWPD. What would Paul do? That's awesome. So during that game, that's when we started losing people because Dave's employment jobbed him, and we'll just leave it like that. As far as the time off, you don't make the guy work in the morning the next day. I'm just saying. Anyways,
well, actually, prior to that, Matt, there was another game that we played. So you had mentioned that you had played Shards of Infinity when Radis and I were playing Dracar.
Mm-hmm.
While you were playing Dracar with Quinn, myself, Dave, and Radis, we played Unearthed, which is a dice management. It's a game I love. I think it's a beautiful game. I like dice games. It's dice management where you're making some rolls and making some decisions on the cards you want to place your dice on, and ultimately you're adding up these point values to capture cards, and then you want to capture like cards to earn points at the end of the game. And then each player has a deck of cards in their hand they can play that can change the outcome of dice or allow you to re-roll or move dice around. It's a game I always really enjoy, and it's one of those, the more people you have, the more fun it is.
And who won that one?
I think I took first place in that one. Radis got second.
Yeah,
nice.
No, that was a fun game. It takes that smash up where you're trying to take the bases, but instead of having the combat, everyone's kind of like bidding. So when you roll, if you need the bases of 13, and then when you're putting your dice out there, it's like, okay, I can get it within 4, but do I want to do that because I still don't have enough of the the most of that 13 to actually capture it. So, but I don't want to give it to Paul, so I'll put my points over here, somewhere completely irrelevant. So yeah, it's a very, the art and it's fantastic. I loved it. I enjoyed playing it. Very simple game at first, but again, a lot of those decisions on the dice are a lot of thought behind it. However much you want to put into it, or you can sit down and just play a very, very mindless game and enjoy it, enjoy the art, and enjoy the table conversation. So, yeah.
What's the price
I
point
recommend
on
that
that
game
one?
as well.
It's about $20.
Oh, so yeah, I mean everybody should just buy it. I mean, it's $20. What are you going to lose, right? Especially when you're talking about board games and replayability.
Yeah.
I know. I'll go. Obviously not right now, but I'll go watch a movie for whatever $15 and then buying popcorn and all that stuff. Buy a $20 game and it'll last you longer. I'm just saying. Buy a $50 game. Buy Dracar. I'm just saying.
Yeah. The only thing I would hold against Unearthed, like I could see our group, that could definitely be a main staple. But you really need to know your audience. If you've got people who are more, I don't know. It's hard to explain because it's a good game. I do recommend it, but I don't think it's a game that everyone's going to enjoy.
It's very minimalist. Like there's not a lot of components. You have some cards, you have some dice. That's really it.
Yeah, and like I said, it's not overly flashy, which I think for a lot of people getting into board games, if the board game is too flashy, it scares them. And if it's not flashy enough, they think, there's not enough meat to it. Which in that Unearthed game, there's not a lot to it, but the meat that's there is really good. But if you don't get into it in those first 2 rounds, it's going to be a 20-minute game of you being bored. So
that's fair.
As much as I would say, as a board gaming group, yes, I do recommend it. I think it's a great game to have on your shelf. As a game to buy, if you're just getting into it, I would say don't, and try to find a copy that somebody else owns and tries it. Because, it's only $20, but for a starting game that's going to get more people, and there's a lot of other $20 games I would recommend to even a very light core gaming group. I would put that one more in the medium to upper, where you have a group that will play the Gloomhaven, which is the really in-depth, or all the way down to an Unearthed, but that has just as much strategy as a Dracar, as we spoke, or chess, or something along that line, but doesn't have the visuals where it's like, this has got 1,600 pieces to it, and it's like, the little pieces. No, it's a very simple, basic game that is more in your mind than it is on the table. So,
I think that's fair.
Oh yeah. So after we played Dead of Winter, which we handily beat that one, if I remember correctly, it wasn't too close at all. We had enough time to play one more thing, right? So we're playing all these board games, got dice rolling, got all kinds of cool stuff, and what do we decide to do?
Cheating game.
it's the cheat. Oh, we definitely
You-
we had
see-
the advantage.
Yep,
Hey,
see,
I'm
Jason,
not the
he
one
was
who
getting
set
ready
it
to
up.
bed. They cheated.
I'm not the one who set it up. That would be
We
you,
didn't
Jason.
cheat.
We just exploited our advantages. Okay. It's
Yep.
not
The
cheating.
higher they had the high ground. Let's put
We
it that
had
way.
the high ground.
They
Exactly. We had the high ground. Yep. I was gonna say it wasn't cheating. We just, we had the high ground.
We couldn't physically get our pieces onto your table because there was a lip.
Not my problem.
Yeah.
That was your problem.
They weren't our tables.
So for,
The audience might want some context.
and
here.
the audience might
Everyone's
want to know
gonna
what the
leave it
game is. So
Good night, folks.
run with it, Jay. It's your game.
So we finished the night. We rounded it off playing a game of Flick 'em Up, which, if you have not played Flick 'em Up, is a Western theme dexterity game where you have a bunch of wooden meeples with cowboy hats on. You have an Old West town, so you have all these wooden pieces that make up buildings, and then you have little pieces that you flick that represent movement and bullets. And we played just a straight-up death match, so it was last team standing, but there's actually a lot of scenarios you can play where you have to capture objectives, or one team's maybe trying to stop another team from doing something in town. But we just played a straight-up team deathmatch, last team standing. And ideally, this game works best on a big open table, kind of like a pool table. A pool table works really good for this game with the felt. At the setup we had 2 card tables that the surface on them just wouldn't work well for that game. And then I had several 6-foot folding tables. And when we put the 2 folding tables together, one was about 1/8 of an inch higher than the other one, which Radis and I started on the low table, and those guys started on the high table. And Radis and I could not physically get our pieces onto their table. Like, literally, you would flick your movement piece or you would flick your bullet, and it would hit that edge and just stop. So you guys had the high ground. You never came down onto our table. We couldn't physically get up on yours, and you basically just sat there and picked us off one after another. It was a bloodbath.
You eventually got up there.
I think you hit.
I think we had to flick a piece super hard, and it shot up and bounced on the table. And then where it landed, the guy was in such awful position that he had 3 guys next to him, and he didn't get to go again until all 3 of your guys went. He was dead. He was dead before it ever got back to him.
I mean, haven't you guys seen episode 3 of Star Wars? I mean, you should have learned your lesson right there. You should have just forfeited. You'd have kept all your arms and legs. That would have been great.
I forgot. How did we pick who got what side? Was it just chance?
I think we just went and walked. I don't think when we started the game, we realized that one table was higher than the other. Because it was such a small...
Yeah, we didn't notice until you tried going over
when
it.
You're flicking that piece, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, and I mean, looking at it, I mean, I think we both understood, well, what we thought was that it's going to be a hard time getting over the middle no matter what, just because there's that divot. However, I didn't know that we had the high ground, so hey.
And it was a bloodbath. I don't think you lost one person, did you?
I think one guy got hit once or something like that, or maybe 2 guys got hit. It was it was ridiculous. You got smoked.
That was actually my first dexterity game too, so I was really happy we played that because I hadn't had a chance to play one before, and the concept of it was interesting to me, but not enough that I would have ever bought it myself and gave it a shot. So the only way I would have ever played it was at someone's house. So I was really happy that we tried that out. The only thing, and I guess you might have semi-answered it, Jason. So can you set up? I mean, can the board or the table that you're playing on be basically any shape you want, or is the game actually suggest using a pool table or something? I don't know.
No, I mean you can set up. So there's an actual booklet that comes with it that lays out 15 different game scenarios and shows you how to set up the town. Or so it'll show you put this building here, this building this far away, or you can just kind of create your own town, which we did. Then there's different objectives, but you could set it up. I mean, you could play it on the floor if you had a smooth surface. You could maybe play it on a really fine carpet, but if you have a shag carpet, you would. It's got to be a pretty flat and level surface. But you could put it on just about anything.
Yeah, ours was pretty nice because honestly, I mean, thematically, it was basically like that was Main Street of the Old West town. Like you had to walk from one side of the other to the street, and just that's where all the shootouts happen.
Oh, yeah.
So they actually do have, Ryan, you might like this. They have a Dead of Winter version of that game as well too. So it's a co-op game where you're trying to survive, and what happens is anytime there's a zombie attack, you actually get like a very large, it's like a slide, and who's ever playing the zombies flicks their piece, places the slide there, and then actually drops zombie meeples down the slide. And then if they hit any of your players, they become zombies.
Oh, awesome.
Nice.
Raining zombies.
That would be awful. Game over. If it's raining zombies, it's game over. I'm just saying. So, Gameageddon was awesome. Definitely want to do that again sometime soonish. I just don't know when that'll be, but we'll call it. It doesn't have to be a birthday. We can just get together and do stuff because life. But kind of starting to wrap this up a little bit. We've done a board gaming podcast before, but we've got some new people on here, and maybe some of us have played some different games. But throwing it out there, I'll start with Radis. But what games are you playing right now? And I'm going to throw this one in there. What game do you want to play that maybe you haven't or you haven't in a while?
So are you just games in general?
Yeah. Well,
okay.
board games.
Okay, board games. If you say. Unfortunately, my situation down here, board games are a little minimalistic because of COVID and one of my board game people moving off to Texas. So down here, I'm not really playing a whole lot currently. I do have access to Tabletop Simulator to try to play some on there. So my bi-weekly Gloomhaven is still going on for that. I am looking forward to Frosthaven next year, which I kind of mentioned that it was the only game I picked up off of Kickstarter. I still really want to, we've mentioned it in the last board game, but I still really want to play 4th edition Twilight.
Yeah, we're probably all going to say that.
Yeah, and
I mean, I have it, so if we set one up, set up the next board game, I can bring it.
Nice. That becomes a board game day for that.
Board game weekend.
Yeah, pretty much. That's a weekend game.
Yep. I will also say the last time I was in town, we started the 6-man Dune that got derailed by drinking. Was getting ready to start happening. So that's really what I'm looking forward to, is us sitting down and getting a full 6-player game of Dune from start to finish. Just the 2 or 3 rounds we got to play, just seeing how ruthless that game is going to be.
It's going to be
really intrigues me.
Oh yeah.
So
cool. What about you, Jay?
So I've been horrible, and I'm probably going to get kicked off this board game channel.
Oh, hang on, let me get that real quick.
Outside of our D&D campaign that we have going, I have not played a single game since Gameageddon.
Oh.
But I have several that I really want to. So all of you guys were extremely generous at Gameageddon and brought me several birthday presents. So Dave had brought me One Deck Dungeon, which shame on me for not playing because it's a solo game, so I should just sit down and play it. But I definitely want to get into that one. Ryan, you got me Odin's Ravens. I haven't played it yet, but I have watched several playthroughs, and it looks outstanding. Like, I love the idea of the Loki cards and how they change the outline of the course, that you can remove cards or you can make people have to go outside the path or switch them around. And just, like, I've opened it up and I've went through it, and it's a beautiful game. Kind of like I talked about Unearthed. Like, I love the aesthetics of it. That Odin's Raven, the aesthetics on it are just outstanding. And then the rest of you guys all went in together and got me a copy of Aeon's End Legacy, which I have specifically not played because I don't want to play it without you guys. You guys got it. It's a game that I want to play as a group together. It's a legacy game. I want us to get through the story. So I'm looking forward to that one as well.
And thank you to your wife for making sure she gave us that idea.
Yep.
Which is awesome. All right. Ryan, what are you playing and what are you planning on playing?
Well, obviously playing a lot of Dracar, like constantly,
What?
but for for other people's games. So, like I kind of mentioned before, now that we've started doing the playthrough videos as well for Omni Lucid Media, which has been fun doing those. So that's another one. We do have one of Odin's Ravens, Jason. We like backlogged, I don't even know how many games, at least 5 different games. So they're all just being edited, and then eventually it'll get put up when they're done. But one that I had and I hadn't got to play until then was actually Champions of Midgard, which I just instantly fell in love with. It's such a fun game. It's a worker placement, which I'm noticing more and more that I really enjoy worker placement games. I always think like, no, I don't think those are, but yeah, I love like every worker placement I play. But that one's just awesome. It's another Viking game. You get to, you roll dice, you fight monsters, you fight trolls, you can sail across the sea to fight bigger monsters. You have to like recruit your army. Yeah, it's a really fun game. The other one we've been playing a lot of is called Here to Slay. It's a new game that came out recently by the Unstable Unicorns group. So if you play Unstable Unicorns, it's a card game, and it's pretty fun. I mean, it seems like it's more aimed towards kids, but really it's one of those games that's for everybody. But Here to Slay makes it a little more, I don't want to call it an RPG, but a little more RPG-like, because you're getting different classes and you're going to fight monsters. So that one's been fun. Yeah, God, I don't know. We've just been playing so many lately. Jaws is a great one. That would actually be one that I think if we do another board game night, I would really love to bring and have everybody play, because it's a one versus all. So it's a lot of fun playing Jaws. But yeah, so those are the games I've been playing. The one that I really want to play is called Alter Quest. It's new. It hasn't come out yet. It's a Kickstarter game. It's by Blacklist Games, and they have a bunch of awesome games. But it was their ode to Hero Quest, is what they kind of said. The creators, they used to play Hero Quest as kids. They loved it, so they wanted to make kind of like their homage to Hero Quest. So this is called Alter Quest. It's like shipping out right now. So I'm just like sitting here chomping at the bit, waiting. Like people in Australia are getting theirs, and I'm just like, oh, God, I just want to be Australian so bad right now, just to play this game. But it's supposed to be here by either end of October or early November. So I don't have a whole lot longer to wait, but that's definitely what I'm looking forward to playing right now.
That's awesome.
Ryan, did you see that Hero Quest is coming back out?
I did, and it's so expensive.
Oh, it is. But it's one of those, like, I'm probably going to have to bite the bullet and do it. And I'm running out of time because the HasLab crowdfunding is almost up. I think they were only going to have it open for 45 days. So they're starting it on HasLab, and they're doing a base game for, like, $99. And then they're doing an all-in for $150, and that gives you like 2 expansions. But if you do it through the crowdfunding, you're also getting, like, just like a Kickstarter, you're getting several additional things that will only be available through the HasLab. And then if you buy retail after, you won't be able to get the full complete game, which is complete BS.
Yep, that's that FOMO kicking in.
I know.
That's where it gets you, and that's the thing. So I never played Hero Quest as a kid. I didn't know anybody that had it. I honestly didn't know anything about Hero Quest until like really, really diving back into board games. From what I've seen, it looks like it'd be fun. Everyone said it's basically D&D, the board game edition. But now the fact that I'm getting Alter Quest, and the fact that me and my buddies have a D&D game, it's kind of like, do I really need to go this route? But
I wouldn't recommend getting it unless you had it growing up. So it's one of those games.
Yeah.
It's a dungeon crawl.
It's a nostalgia.
It was one of the first games to really do miniatures in a dungeon crawl accessible that wasn't D&D, and it was fun. It's been done a lot better so many times now. There's a lot of games out there that are just 100 times better. But if you grew up with it, I mean, it was a blast when I was 9-10 years old and had all these pieces running around the dungeon. So it's for me it's a complete nostalgia thing that I want. And the one coming out, I think, is literally the same game with a facelift. Like, they didn't change the mechanics. They didn't update it with modern gaming standards. They've literally just given it a facelift, make it look nicer, add some better looking minis, some better looking cards, and totally going for that nostalgia buy.
Yeah, that's what worries me about it, is that they just reskinned it. Yeah, they reskinned it, which, and again, like you said, that's where I'm like, yeah, it's a total nostalgia thing. There's a lot of dungeon. I mean, I have a good amount of dungeon crawlers, Alter Quest coming in. The Hellboy game I freaking love that. It's an awesome dungeon crawler. So it's kind of I don't think I really need it, and the fact that where the price point is at. If it was a little cheaper, I would just get the base game. There was no way I was going to do the all in. Luckily, I've been pretty good about keeping my FOMO under control lately with Kickstarter and board games. But yeah,
that's awesome. So, really quick for me personally, as far as what we've been playing, I play my games when Raidus comes into town or somebody pops over. So, with it pretty much just being Raidus, and whoever comes when he comes into town, we've been playing that Dune game a couple of games, which is it's a fantastic game. We will be talking about that in the future, for sure. But and I'm with you. I want to get a 6-player game of that going. But as far as what I want to play, there's really, besides Twilight Imperium, obviously, right? I kind of want to get a good old fashioned game of Axis and Allies again. It's been, it's been since
years,
before my dad passed, and that we've played that. And I'm kind of ready now, because that was me and my dad's game that we used to play all the time. So that's the one I want to get together and do that sometime. But I want to do it like we've talked about. I want 5 people who have played it a few times. They know the rules, so that we don't, because we can't. I just don't want to start over again, like, as far as that goes. So it'll be a select group when we do it. I'm cool with training people. I mean, like, that's cool as long as we know that's what we're doing. But I'd rather have myself kind of narrating it and helping them, and have 5 brand new people play, and then get them into it. That way we can have more people. So, but yeah, that's what I want to play these days. I've been mulling over getting the. I can't remember what the anniversary was, but the anniversary edition of it that came out a while ago. Because it's probably, might be my favorite board game. I'm not sure, because it kind of goes back and forth between a couple of them. So, yeah, so that's that. We're wrapping up, and I'm going to start with Raidus on this, because he's going to say nothing. Raidus, do you got any plugs? Whoa.
Nope. Like I said before, I work for a living. Just now beginning to expand into some other stuff for this channel. So
cool. And then Jason, what do you got going? Anything?
Get out and vote.
Boo! First edit of the podcast.
Yep, we're gonna edit that. This is a non-political one. Click.
Yep.
All right. That's awesome. Ryan, what do you got? Please plug. Get all whatever websites, whatever email, whatever. Throw it out there.
Yeah, as we've just been kind of talking through the game, so Omni Lucid Media is the main, head of the company, which hopefully we haven't been confusing people too much, because we are brand new. There's literally 3 of us for the entire team. But so Omni Lucid Media is, you can find it on Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff. But then we also have kind of the branches off of it. So there's Omni Lucid Games, which is just specifically the games that we're going to be making. Obviously, Dracar is our first one. We already have a couple other games set up and, that we've prototyped and all that, but, one at a time. And then we just now with the playthroughs and more of the YouTube content that isn't Dracar related, we are doing Omni Lucid Presents. So that's where you're going to see us doing the playthroughs of Odin's Ravens, Champions of Midgard. The Here to Slay one is already out. We did a live playthrough of the Godzilla Tokyo Clash board game, which was a lot of fun. That's another game I definitely recommend. You're just running around throwing buildings and monsters at each other. It's a pretty good one. So yeah, all of those. So like Omni Lucid Media, Instagram, YouTube, all those places. Eventually we'll be on, we'll have Dracar and Kickstarter. But yeah, and then definitely, I know you guys always plug all the local places. Yeah. Definitely tomorrow's yesterday.
Nope, it's tomorrow's yesterday.
It's TSY.
Oh, it is tomorrow's yesterday.
Well, it's not, but that's what we call it.
But it is.
Oh, yeah. What's the actual name now?
Top Cut. It's Top
That's
Cut.
right. Yeah, Top Cut. Man, I still remember, you guys always talk about this, and I always think, did you guys ever go to Clark's?
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. That's another podcast, dude. We'll do that another day.
Just curious. Yeah. Sorry, I had to get that out while I'm on here.
Because I might be able to get in contact with the family, because they were my neighbors growing up.
Yeah, I see it when I come in town. But yeah, so out there by you guys, definitely going to Top Cut now. Yeah. And then we're out here in like the Joliet area, and there's a place here called the Wandering Dragon. Another really cool little board game shop. It's pretty cool. He's got an awesome selection in there. He has a whole like room basically sectioned off for used games that he's bought back from people and trade-ins and stuff. So you can always find really good deals in there. He's good about marking them down. Some of them are missing pieces, but he always like inventories everything and says, hey, here's Axis and Allies. It's missing two of the Japanese bombers or something. He's really good about that. But they also host game session, not sessions, but game weekends and stuff for people to come in. So yeah, that's definitely another one to check out. And our media guy is Ord's Board on YouTube. He's actually out there with you guys. He's in Rockford. I don't know if he wants me to say where he works, but yeah, he works. So we won't say that.
He
but
works.
Yeah, he works. But yeah, definitely another one to check out. He's our media guy for Dracar and Omni Lucid, and he does a lot of cool stuff. So give him a plug too.
All right, cool, man. And then, it's you hit one of mine, so that's cool. Top Cut Loves Park. Also, Cataclysm Games in Machesney Park, Illinois. They are fantastic. Again, they're super super friendly people. When things open back up, they've got a giant room for minis and board games and all kinds of stuff. But again, I always say support your local businesses because that's the right thing to do. And Cataclysm has very affordable games there to go along with that. And then, as always, I'm going to plug a couple of podcasts. That being Saturday Night Freak Show. That's Colin in the Game. They review one movie every Saturday. So it's Halloween season, so they're going to be doing a lot of Halloween-y kind of monster movies and those kinds of things, so check them out. And then our friend Raven J does Retro, so definitely check that one out. Again, it's retro topics. And we are the Gamefiles podcast, if you haven't figured that out already. If you would like to get in contact with us, right, we're working on networking and doing our thing, but if you want to send us any suggestions or anything like that, we're at the Gamefiles podcast at gmail.com, and then we do have a Facebook page, the Gamefiles podcast. So definitely check us out. Keep us on your lists, like and subscribe and all that other garbage that everybody says at the end of every video. So again, I want to say thank you to Radis, Jason, and Ryan. It's been fun. We'll definitely have to do this again soon. Both Game-Ageddon and a podcast together. So appreciate you guys joining me for a few minutes.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
So this
Peace
is the
out, Internet.
Peace out, Internet. Yeah. So this is the Gamefiles podcast. Y'all take care.
Peace.
Later.
You forgot about the essence of the game. It's about the cones. Move my abbot to the ocean hex, which moves my brinksman to the devil's lair and pushes my farmer, yes, my humble farmer, directly into the central cone.